In the ancient days, when the world was still young and the boundaries between heaven and earth were less defined, there existed a race of beings known as the Watchers. These were angels, divine and radiant, tasked with observing the affairs of mortals. But as time passed, some of these Watchers grew restless in their celestial duties. They looked upon the daughters of men and found them beautiful, and in their hearts, a forbidden desire took root. The leader of these rebellious Watchers was a being named Shemihaza. He gathered his fellow angels, and together they descended to Mount Hermon, where they made a pact to take human wives and live among mortals. They swore an oath, binding themselves to this earthly life, and soon they took wives from among the daughters of men. These women, though mortal, were extraordinary in their own right, beautiful, wise, and strong-willed. They became known as the wives of the fallen angels. The union between the Watchers and their mortal wives was not without consequence. From these unions came the Nephilim, a race of giants who roamed the earth, mighty and fearsome. The Nephilim wrought havoc upon the world, devouring the resources of the land and spreading violence and corruption. The cries of the oppressed reached the heavens, and the Most High saw the wickedness that had taken root. The decision was made to cleanse the earth, to wash away the wickedness that had taken root. Noah, a righteous man, was chosen to build an ark, a vessel to preserve life amidst the coming destruction. For years, Noah labored, his hands calloused and his spirit weary, but he did not falter. He gathered his family and the animals of the earth, 2 by 2, and when the time came, the heavens opened, and the rains began to fall. The waters rose swiftly, swallowing the mountains and valleys, the forests and plains. The world was consumed by a churning, endless sea. The ark, tossed upon the waves, became a fragile sanctuary, a beacon of hope in the midst of despair. Inside, Noah and his family prayed for deliverance, while outside, the world they had known was erased. The Watchers, bound by their oath to remain on earth, could not escape the flood. Their celestial light was extinguished, and they were cast into the depths of the earth, imprisoned in darkness. Their voices, once filled with the music of heaven, were silenced. But what of their wives, the mortal women who had loved them? These women, who had once walked in the shadow of divine beings, now faced the wrath of the flood. In the days before the great flood, when the earth was still teeming with both the wonders of creation and the chaos wrought by the Nephilim, there lived a woman named Lila. She was no ordinary woman. Her beauty was legendary, her spirit unyielding, and her heart aflame with a fierce independence that set her apart from others. Lila had been the wife of Azazel, one of the most prominent of the fallen Watchers. Azazel, whose name meant the scapegoat, had been a teacher of forbidden arts to humanity, sharing secrets of warfare, metallurgy, and the crafting of weapons. But to Lila, he was more than a rebel angel. He was her husband, the father of her child, and the love of her life. When the rains began, Lila knew the world she had known was coming to an end. The heavens had opened, and the waters poured forth in an unrelenting deluge. The earth groaned under the weight of the flood, and the cries of the doomed echoed across the land. Lila, however, was not one to succumb to despair. Clutching her infant son, whom she had named Malik, meaning messenger, she fled from her home, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. The waters rose swiftly, swallowing everything in their path. Lila ran, her feet slipping on the muddy ground, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She climbed higher and higher, seeking refuge in the mountains. The rain lashed at her face, and the wind howled like a wounded beast, but she pressed on, driven by a mother's love and an unshakable will to survive. Malik, wrapped tightly in a cloth against her chest, slept fitfully, unaware of the peril that surrounded them. For days, Lila climbed, her strength waning but her resolve unbroken. She scavenged for food where she could, eating wild berries and drinking from mountain streams. The world below her was vanishing, swallowed by the relentless floodwaters. Villages, forests, and even the great cities of men were lost beneath the waves. Lila knew there was no turning back. At last, she reached a place where the cliffs rose sharply, their jagged peaks piercing the stormy sky. Exhausted and near collapse, she spotted a narrow crevice in the rock face. With the last of her strength, she crawled into the opening, finding herself in a hidden cave. The air was cool and still, and the sound of the rain was muffled. Here, she was safe, for now. The cave was small but deep, its walls smooth and dry. Lila laid Malik down gently, her hands trembling as she checked to ensure he was unharmed. The infant stirred, his dark eyes opening briefly before he drifted back to sleep. Lila collapsed beside him, her body aching and her mind racing. She knew the flood would not last forever, but she also knew the world she had known was gone. What would become of her and her son in this new, desolate world? Days turned into weeks as Lila and Malik waited in the cave. The rains eventually ceased, and the floodwaters began to recede, but the world outside was unrecognizable. The land was barren, stripped of life, and the silence was oppressive. Lila ventured out cautiously, scavenging for food and supplies. She found remnants of the old world, broken tools, fragments of pottery, and the bones of animals, but no other survivors. As the months passed, Lila focused on raising Malik, teaching him the skills he would need to survive. She told him stories of his father, Azazel, and the world before the flood. She spoke of the Watchers and their fall from grace, of the Nephilim and the corruption that had led to the flood. But she also spoke of hope, of the resilience of the human spirit, and of the possibility of a new beginning. Malik grew into a strong and curious child, his features bearing the unmistakable mark of his celestial heritage. His eyes were a piercing silver, and his strength was beyond that of ordinary mortals. Lila taught him to hunt, to build shelter, and to navigate the harsh landscape of the post-flood world. She also instilled in him a sense of justice and compassion, hoping to balance the legacy of his father's rebellion with the virtues of humanity. One day, while exploring the mountains, Malik discovered a hidden valley, lush and fertile, untouched by the flood. He rushed back to tell his mother, and together they made their way to this newfound paradise. The valley was a place of breathtaking beauty, with crystal-clear streams, towering trees, and an abundance of wildlife. It was here that Lila and Malik decided to make their home. Over time, others who had survived the flood found their way to the valley, drawn by rumors of a safe haven. Lila, now a matriarch of sorts, welcomed them with open arms. She shared her knowledge and resources, helping to build a new community. The valley became a place of healing and renewal, a testament to the resilience of those who had endured the flood. Lila never forgot Azazel, and though she mourned his fall, she also cherished the love they had shared. She often gazed at the stars, wondering if he could see her from his prison in the depths of the earth. Malik, too, carried the legacy of his father, but he chose to use his strength and wisdom to protect and nurture the new world. In time, Lila's story became legend, a tale of love, survival, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Her name was whispered in the winds and carried by the rivers, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable loss, hope could still flourish. And so, the woman who had once been the wife of a fallen angel became a beacon of light in a world reborn from the flood. Another wife, named Namaah, had been the beloved of the Watcher Shemihaza. Namaah was no ordinary mortal. Her mind was as sharp as the edge of a blade, and her curiosity was insatiable. Namaah had been the beloved of Shemihaza, the leader of the fallen Watchers, and through him, she had gained knowledge far beyond the reach of ordinary humans. Shemihaza, whose name meant the one who sees, had shared with her the secrets of the heavens and the earth, teaching her the mysteries of the stars, the properties of plants, and the art of healing. Namaah had become a keeper of wisdom, a bridge between the celestial and the mortal. When the rains began and the floodwaters rose, Namaah knew she had to act quickly. Unlike many who panicked or resigned themselves to their fate, she was prepared. Years earlier, she had discovered a hidden valley nestled deep within the mountains, a place of unparalleled beauty and tranquility. The valley was surrounded by towering cliffs, its entrance concealed by a labyrinth of narrow passes and dense foliage. It was here that Namaah had cultivated a garden of rare and wondrous plants, each one imbued with properties she had learned from Shemihaza. Some could heal wounds, others could induce visions, and a few were said to hold the secrets of immortality. With the floodwaters rising, Namaah gathered her most precious belongings, scrolls filled with her writings, seeds from her garden, and a small chest containing relics of her life with Shemihaza. She fled to the hidden valley, her heart heavy with the knowledge that the world she had known was coming to an end. As she climbed the treacherous paths to the valley, the rains lashed at her, and the wind howled like a grieving spirit. But Namaah pressed on, her determination unwavering. When she reached the valley, she found it untouched by the chaos below. The air was still, and the only sound was the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. Namaah's garden thrived, a riot of color and life amidst the desolation. She set to work immediately, ensuring that her plants would survive the long days ahead. She built a small shelter from stones and wood, a humble but sturdy refuge where she could wait out the flood. Days turned into weeks, and the rains continued to fall. Namaah spent her time tending to her garden, recording her thoughts and knowledge on scraps of parchment, and reflecting on the life she had lived. She missed Shemihaza deeply, though she knew he had been imprisoned in the depths of the earth, his light extinguished. She often gazed at the stars, wondering if he could see her from his dark prison. In those moments, she felt a profound loneliness, but also a sense of purpose. She was determined to preserve the wisdom she had gained, to ensure that it would not be lost to the flood. As the waters began to recede, Namaah ventured out of the valley to survey the changed world. The land was barren and scarred, but she saw signs of life returning, tender shoots breaking through the soil, birds returning to the skies. She knew that the world would heal, but it would take time. Namaah decided to make the hidden valley her permanent home, a sanctuary where she could continue her work. Over the years, Namaah's garden grew into a place of legend. Travelers who stumbled upon the valley spoke of a woman with silver hair and eyes like the night sky, who possessed knowledge beyond measure. They told of a garden where every plant had a purpose, where the air was filled with the scent of herbs and flowers, and where the very earth seemed to hum with life. Namaah welcomed those who came to her in need, offering healing and wisdom. She became a guardian of the valley, a living link to the world before the flood. One day, a young man named Elihu found his way to the valley. He was a scholar, driven by a thirst for knowledge, and he had heard stories of Namaah and her garden. Elihu was weary from his journey, but his eyes lit up with wonder when he saw the valley. Namaah greeted him warmly, sensing his genuine curiosity and respect for the old ways. She took him under her wing, teaching him the secrets of her garden and the wisdom she had preserved. Elihu proved to be a diligent student, and over time, he became Namaah's closest companion. Together, they expanded the garden, cultivating new plants and experimenting with their properties. Namaah shared with him the stories of Shemihaza and the Watchers, ensuring that the knowledge of the past would not be forgotten. Elihu, in turn, brought new ideas and perspectives, helping Namaah see the world through fresh eyes. As the years passed, Namaah grew older, but her spirit remained as vibrant as ever. She knew that her time in the world was drawing to a close, but she was at peace. She had lived a life of purpose, preserving the wisdom of the past and nurturing the seeds of the future. When she finally passed from the world, Elihu buried her in the garden she had loved so dearly, beneath a tree whose leaves shimmered like silver. The valley remained a place of wonder and healing, a testament to Namaah's legacy. Her story was passed down through generations, a tale of love, wisdom, and resilience. And though she was gone, her spirit lived on in the garden, in the whispers of the wind, and in the hearts of those who sought knowledge and healing in the hidden valley. Namaah, the beloved of Shemihaza, had become a legend, a beacon of light in a world reborn from the flood. The wives of the fallen angels were not forgotten. Their stories, though marked by loss and sorrow, were also stories of survival and hope. They had loved beings of great power and beauty, and they had endured the consequences of that love. Through their strength and resilience, they helped to shape the world that emerged from the flood. In the end, the tale of the wives of the fallen angels is a reminder of the enduring power of the human spirit. They faced the wrath of the heavens and the destruction of the earth, but they did not falter. They carried the light of their love and their wisdom into the new world, ensuring that the past would not be lost. And so, their stories continue to echo through the ages, a testament to the strength and resilience of those who endure.